everyone, my name is Paige. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing, I asked on Instagram if you guys could send in any kind of horse topics or controversial topics that you might like me to talk about, and one of you guys commented about the Brumbie cull that is going to be happening in the Blue Mountains, which is in Australia, for those of you who don't know. And I just thought I would talk about that because, to be honest, I've heard about this on the news, but I haven't really, I've signed a few petitions and that, but I haven't really in depth looked at what's happening. I've just kind of known what they're planning to do. That's kind of all I've really known. I went on a bunch of different websites and I tried to find a lot of reports that were super unbiased and just had facts in them. And I'm just going to read you guys some of the facts for those of you who may not be aware of the situation or might not live in Australia, but may live in a different country, or those of you who are just completely not aware that this is happening. Okay, so this was in May. This is when the plan came into action, in May. But it's still something that's very much being talked about right now, so yeah. Okay, so basically, Kosciuszko National Park, okay. New South Wales government plans to change the number of wild horses in Kosciuszko National Park from 6,000 to approximately 3,000 in the next 5 to 10 years. Cut that figure to 600 over the next 20 years. So in the end, they only want 600 horses in Kosciuszko National Park. So the Environment Minister says that the horses are damaging the park's fragile alpine and subalpine environments. So they're ruining the land, they're endangering native species, etc, etc. So we'll get into that later. Okay, so it's saying that scientists have for a long time been campaigning this because they're damaging sensitive waterways and endangered species and the alpine areas. The Environment Minister says that only a range of humane control methods, will be used, including trapping, mustering, fertility control and ground shooting. They've said that aerial shooting, Brumbie running and roping have been completely ruled out. Once all the horses have been culled, they plan to put them in 3 locations in the park with a smaller population with less environmental impact. Okay, and a big issue too with the community is they feel that horses are a part of the Australian history. So they helped in the World Wars. They helped in the World Wars. You know, they make up a lot of literature, Australian literature, a lot of Australian poetry. They're just the Brumbie is a bit of an iconic Australian thing. And people are getting upset because this is where most of the Brumbies are in Australia, or that's what I understand. And people are getting upset because if they're going to cull all these Brumbies, well, that's just a disgrace on Australian history. There's a charity called Save the Brumbies, and the spokesman for that person said that this cull is absolutely horrific. She said that they are opposed. She said that she knows that the minister said that they're opposed to aerial culling, but they didn't say they are opposed to ground shooting, and she is completely appalled by that. So at the moment they're trialling fertility control for the herds, and they've had a 75% success rate so far. Okay, she is saying that they are actually not doing as much damage to the environment as some scientists are saying. She says she has scientific reports that say they don't cause the damage they're accused of. And this is a good point too. She said wombats and feral animals such as cats, dogs and pigs cause a lot more damage to the environment, but the horses were out during the day rather than at night, so they're more noticeable of the damage. My opinion on this, I think it's wrong. I think it's cruel. I think it's not humane, regardless of whether you carry humane methods or not. I don't think this is fair at all. Horses in Australia are not native animals. They weren't here before people arrived to Australia. They're not native animals. From what I understand, I think they came from India and South Africa, maybe? I can't remember where they came from, but I read that somewhere too. But some of them came from India, etc, etc. So they are not native Australian animals. Did those horses choose to come to Australia? No, they didn't. People shipped them here, people got them here, people were responsible for getting horses here originally. So for them to kind of suffer because if they've put horses into our land and horses weren't here originally, for them to suffer because we have lost control of the population, or because they're doing damage to the environment. They weren't here originally. They're trying to survive. They're trying to get food. They're trying to They're trying to keep their herds, they're trying to maintain their herds. That's what horses do. And for people who have brought them here, and I know it's not those direct people, I know the Environment Minister and whatever haven't said, oh okay, back in like whenever horses came here, let's bring horses. I know they didn't say that, but it was the Australian government back then that would have had a say in that. And the ministers now are representations of that government back then. So I personally think that these horses shouldn't be getting culled just because we as humans have lost control. The government has lost control of the population because they were the ones who brought them here originally. So why should the animals have to suffer if it was the humans who made the wrongdoing in the first place? Do you know what I mean? Having studied geography in school, I do understand where people are coming from about the damage to waterways and damage to environments and things like that. But there's a very good point in the article about the fact that when I was studying this, I never heard one thing about horses. I always heard about cats and dogs and pigs and not wombats. Wombats aren't native, but pigs and things that are causing damage as well. So I don't think that the problem should be solely placed onto horses, because it's not. I understand that they probably are contributing to it, but like I said, we're the ones who brought them here. You can't just go cull them all just because. I understand it's important to protect the endangered environment, but still, it's inhumane. If you look at that, that's going from they want to go from 6,000 to 600 horses. So they're planning to cull over the next 20 years. They're planning to cull 5,400 horses. I think that it's ridiculous. I believe that the culling method, if they're planning to achieve this over the next 20 years, it's a pretty long time, and I think that they're being lazy. I think that they're doing this so that the problem goes away quite quickly. I do like the idea of the fertility control, because I think that's a very humane way to do it, and I think it's a good way to stall it, if you know what I mean. There was another point in the article further down about over the next 20 years, that's a long time for horses to be rehomed and for horses to get broken in and to be sold and that, and who can go into rescue centres and things like that. I understand that, and I think that is a good way to go. I do, with that in mind, it is important that I think we still have wild horses, but I think it's much better to try and get those 5,000 rehomed, broken in, etc. And from what I understand, there are a lot of trainers who've already put their hand up and said that they want to do this. So I think that from that point of view, they should have the chance to get broken in, to get rehomed. That is gonna not make them wild horses anymore, but it's better than killing them. Saying that ground shooting is one of their humane methods of controlling this, and I personally think ground shooting is horrific. Could you imagine just a bunch of herds, like a herd just running across Kosciuszko National Park, and one horse shooting down dead? All the other horses would freak out, and then it's like dominoes. That would be horrific, and I think that is completely wrong. And I think if they are going to go ahead with this, I think fertility control is the best idea, and I think that they should really make an effort not to take the lazy way out and to try and rehome some of these horses, to try and break them in. But I just want to point out too, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an like a geographer or whatever, but from what I understand, environments and species are very, very adaptable, and I think that even with 600 horses, I don't think if they are planning to cull these horses, I don't think they need to go from 6,000 to 600. I think that the environment will learn to adapt and will learn to control itself, and will learn to adapt to them being there for such a long time. And I understand they're causing damage, but it's not like the environment is completely damaged. It's changed, it's adapting. It's not the same as it was when the horses weren't introduced to it, but it's not completely damaged. And I want to point that out too. The fact that they're saying that they're endangering other species, I don't really understand that, to be honest. From my understanding, and I've been working with horses for quite a while, but from my understanding, horses eat grass. That's what they eat. And I understand that grazing might affect other animals, but Kosciuszko National Park is huge. And I think that the environment will learn to adapt to cater to everyone. That's my personal opinion. Thank you guys for watching. That was kind of my little rant. That's my opinion about it. I've tried to inform myself as best I can, so I apologise if I said anything wrong or if I missed a fact here or there, but I have done a lot of research, and these were kind of the main facts that I tried to get together. like I don't want this to happen. I'll leave a few petitions and articles and things down below with more information on this topic. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to let me know your views down below. And I'll see you next week. Bye!